Hey, everybody. It's so good to be back again. I am so excited. Listen, I'm excited for many reasons. You see that lady on the other side of the screen, or maybe it's this way, on that side of the screen. I am so excited about tonight. If you are not excited with me, shame on you, because this is about to be a good one, baby. All right. Hello to all my courageous queens and my courageous kings. Y'all know me. I am Angelique Pierce. I am the founder of Ladder Masters Inspirational Leadership Group, better known as Ladder Masters, but I'm also a survivor of domestic violence, an advocate of freedom and truth, all that good stuff that we've been talking about for the last 9 weeks, because we are here at the 9th episode. I'm so happy. All right, so I always tell you that I am here to speak for 3 reasons and only 3. And if I ever speak and say anything else, you can tell me to shut up. Like, that's the agreement we got here. All right, so I'm here, number 1, to bring awareness. There is so much that people don't understand, think they know, have no real clue about. So I'm here to bring some real awareness specifically about domestic violence through this podcast, Silent No More. Number 2 is to break down facades. We think we know. Tanika, I ain't bring you in yet, but they think they know. They don't really know. And we have the opportunity to share and bring more awareness and break down these facades, because what we think is not. And then finally, to build conquerors. That is a must for me, because I know what I went through. It's called Ladder Masters for a reason. I had to get back to my climbing up the ladder, up my steps. So, all right. So I only speak for those 3 reasons, and that's what I'm here for tonight. So tonight, I have a very special guest. A very special guest with me, Survivor. Oh, wait. Sir Thriver. Sir Thriver, speaker, advocate, author, woman of God, the woman of the hour, Ms. Tanika Bryant. Hi, beautiful. So good to see you again. It has been a minute, huh?
Yes, it has.
It's been a minute. So, Tanika, just real quick, I got a full official introduction that I will do for you or of you. But why don't you just say a quick hello to everyone who's watching live and to those who we know will eventually see the recording later.
Hello, everyone. I'm so excited to be here. Happy Sunday.
This is a good time. I am so glad. Listen, there's some history here, so we'll give y'all some of that in just a second. But before I go any further, I always do and will continue to do, I want to say a quick prayer. I want to make sure that we are in the right space for this, that we have truly invited God's Spirit into this conversation, and that we say what we need to say, not what doesn't need to be said, but what the people who are watching need to hear, and what your heart, Tanika, needs to, what my heart, because I get healing in these episodes too, what my heart needs to express. So again, I want to say a quick prayer. Let's bow our heads. Father, we come before you, thanking you for yet another episode of Silent No More. And that right there says it all. Silent No More. There is a message to be brought forward every single time this podcast gets done. God, I thank you for everyone, every single listening ear. And Father, I ask you that you just soften up hearts and bring more understanding and open up eyes and clarify understanding, because this topic is not easy. We smile because we're on the other side of it. But there are people who are watching that are not quite there. There are people who are watching who just got out. So they need to hear messages like this and understand they are not alone. They are not by themselves, that there are others who are here to stand in the gap for them and give them the support they need. God, I just thank you. I thank you for the strength of our voices, for the courage to get out of what we were in, and for the strength to stay out. And I pray that prayer for every victim, every survivor, the courage to get out, but the strength to stay out. We thank you. We ask your Spirit to guide this conversation. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
Here we go. All right. So I do have a quick acknowledgement that I need to make. I told you, Tanika, that I am on a podcast network. It is the UB Podcast Network, which stands for Unique Blessings, because there are blessings that are unique to each one of us. So Unique Blessings Podcast Network is part of a nonprofit organization called Unique Blessings, and it's founded by Queen Unique, Miss Chantel Evans. I don't know if she's watching yet tonight, or she probably will get on, because that's my girl. She checks in. All right, so let's keep going. Let me do your official introduction. All right, y'all, this is my radio voice. Y'all ready? Tanika Bryant is a professional woman with a great career who has thrived in abusive marriage. She's a woman of faith who has found the blessing in her brokenness. She's a woman who has reclaimed her voice and who inspires other women to reclaim and proclaim theirs. Tanika is a domestic violence survivor who had to pick up the pieces of her words, formulate the sound that would later create the voice of her power. The journey through an abusive marriage, growing career, family, and faith was not at all easy, but it was life-changing. As a trained domestic violence speaker, educator, Tanika shares her story of survival to women and young ladies. Tanika is an Amazon best-selling author of her book, The Life of a Single Wife. I want y'all to try to take that in for a second. The Life of a Single Wife. She boldly uses her story and voice to empower women and young ladies with tips and tools necessary to transition from the pain of abuse and into the power of purpose. Tanika is a dynamic empowerment speaker, mentor, author, and professional leadership consultant. She is also the founder of I Am Empowered LLC, where she passionately pursues her purpose of empowering others with strategies and tools to power up, achieve goals, and get maximum results. Welcome to you, my sister, Tanika. Oh, my goodness. So let me just back up a second, right? We met in 2018. At a Mecklenburg County Domestic Violence Speakers Bureau training. And who know, in 2021, you'd be sitting right here talking to me again like this.
That's right. That's right. Well, I knew it. Because you were on a mission, so it had
yes.
happened. Absolutely.
So catch this, y'all. So back in 2018, now, Tanika, you probably had something specific going on with you. I had something specific going on with me as to why I was there. So just to make sure everybody's on the same page, Mecklenburg County is the largest county in North Carolina. And as you can imagine, there's more people here. So if you want to do it statistic wise, there's more domestic violence, right? Just sheer numbers, right? So the county community resources, they offer a training for people to become a part of the Domestic Violence Speakers Bureau, the DVSB. Tanika and I decided we need to go learn how to talk about this thing. Now, when I went, Tanika, I'll tell you, I went because I just could not understand what I went through and how I got there. So I went to speak and all, but I went because I needed somebody to tell me, can you define this thing for me? Because I can't put it to bed and I can't get past it until I get like the more academic version of what I went through. I couldn't accept that I was just the next one. Right. I just couldn't accept it. Do you remember when you were there, why you were there? Like, what made you go to that training?
Oh, absolutely. What made me go is purpose. I committed to God. I made a commitment to God. I said, God, when you get me out of this, not if, when you get me out of this, that I would use your story, my story for your glory. And I knew that this was going to be that avenue for me. I wanted to be trained on how to use the story, how to get more information, how to put a face in front of this, and how to help empower and inspire other women who are going through this. Because one of the things that God told me, he's like, you know, this when my daughters are silently suffering with this. And so for me, it was a call to purpose. And my answer was to go there and to learn what I needed to learn to be able to empower and inspire people with my story. So
now, one point of clarity, you said that when you get out of this. So when we met, were you still in it?
I was not.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, wait a minute.
Yeah.
So here's the cool thing. So we're in this class, y'all, right? We're in this class, and it was over the course of 3 weekends. And it was kind of like at the end of like your graduate school courses where you do that final presentation. We had a final presentation, and the final presentation was, hey, you've learned all these things now. You've learned about all these resources. Now stand in front of everyone, the rest of your classmates, and tell your story. And they want us to include certain elements. And I just remember being like, hearing all these stories. We'll get to Tanika's story in a second. I promise you that. But that was an amazing moment. Yeah. But here's the cool thing. After the class, we're all outside taking pictures. And Tanika told us about this book we're going to talk to you about later. She told us about this book. And like, I'm finishing it. I'm in the middle of, like, she was right near the end. And I'm thinking, everybody got a book, right? Everybody got a book. Is she going to finish this book? She told us about this book. And here we sit today, book done. But here's the thing. Tanika and I then met up later. And we went to a church and we double teamed a presentation at a church about domestic violence.
Yes.
That was the first time we spoke together. We had all the prep time and all that. And it was so good.
You remember like two or three people came came up and wanted help to get out. Remember?
Yes. Do you remember the lady, the young lady that there, I think she was the sister of one of the people from, where was she from? Oh, Safe Alliance. She was from Safe Alliance, which is one of the organizations that help women in domestic violence in Mecklenburg County. And she was the sister of that speaker. And she kept going out the room and coming back in, and she was just breaking down. Because why? Because she can see herself. She was still in the situation. She could see herself in our words. So listen, my point is that's the last time me and Tanika got together. We talked since then and in between, but this is the first time we've been presenting together. So y'all gonna roll with us because some of this is us just trying to do sister girl stuff, okay? Right. Trying to catch back up. So I have so much to go through with Tanika, and I've got all these questions, but let me set the premise of this episode. So give me a moment, Tanika, okay? I'm gonna set the baseline, the foundation for what we're doing today.
Absolutely.
Today's episode, everybody, is called It's Time to Jump, Breaking Free from the Cycle of Abuse. Now, there's a reason why it's called that, a very specific reason. So I mentioned that Tanika and I went through the same training, like the same weekends, it was together. We went through the same training together back in 2018. Now, during one of the training days, the facilitator, her name is Rihanna Newber, she told us a story. And it stuck with me. And Tanika, I'm going to guess you might remember it. So I'm going to share that story, at least try to share it as well as she did it that day. So here it is. She said, if you put a frog into boiling water, I mean, like put it into really, really, really hot water, it's going to jump out. Like, obviously, right? It's going to jump out. But if you put that frog in lukewarm or tepid water and slowly boil it, bring it to a boil over time. So now it's a slow transition. The frog won't notice the change in temperature as it rises. So the frog doesn't even perceive the coming danger. Yes. Why? Because the frog's body temperature, just like ours would, it adjusts and it keeps adjusting to each small, less noticeable increase in the temperature as the water goes from just like warm to hot. But at some point, just like us, at some point, the water will reach boiling. That's 212 degrees. Now, having spent all of his energy adjusting to the changes in temperature, adjusting to the danger, the frog will not have the energy to jump. So what's going to happen? It's going to get cooked to death. That's what's going to happen to the frog. Like the frog, victims of domestic violence must jump before it's too late. We have to jump. Tanika jumped. I jumped. We jumped. And it is your story, Tanika, of jumping that we are going to discuss today. Woo! I'm so glad you jumped.
Me too.
I'm so glad you jumped.
Wow. We had
so
to.
So you ready? Because I got all these questions.
All right, I'm ready.
You are a speaker, facilitator, trainer, coach, author, blah, 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 blah. This is going to be a good one today. Okay, so let's get started. Let me ask this first question because I really want to know this. I always try to understand because some survivors are on opposite sides of the fence, and some are kind of in the middle. So my question for you is, many survivors are afraid or sometimes ashamed or even both to admit that they have survived domestic violence. Why is Tanika coming on this show to talk about your story? What makes you want to, need to, desire to Tell your story.
Angelique, that's a great question. And again, the biggest part of it for me was purpose. It was calling. It was something that was beyond me. The reason why I wanted to come on this show, the reason why I tell my story, is because I remember the tears that I cried. I remember the fear. I remember the shame. Right? I remember all of those things. And if telling my story, if I could help one person not have to cry those tears, not feel that shame, but also one person that can either come out or not go in, or not be in a situation of domestic abuse, or come out of a situation, then that's what propels me to be here. That's what propels me to go beyond the shame. And I know that, God told me a long time ago, he said, the story is about you, but it's not for you. It's for the release and for the deliverance of those who are assigned to hear the words that you have to say. So that's what makes it important. That's what makes it necessary. That's what makes me show up here anytime there's an opportunity to talk about that story and to give God the glory in my testimony. So
wait a minute, I gotta rewind. Rewind, take it back a little bit. The story is about you,
right?
But it's not for you.
It's not for me.
This is gonna be one of those healing episodes for me that
I'm trying to get through it.
Like I know that. Let me just say that it's not that I don't know that. Like I know what you just said is true. But I'm taking it in for some reason. I heard it different. You know how you just hear stuff different sometimes? I just heard it different. I just heard it differently. So thank you. Can I just say that? Thank you. Because like I said, there are many on the other side that are just like I know people. I know people who've been through it and just need to if they could just forget about it, never bring it up. It's something that they feel like maybe just is a black mark against their whole life.
Right.
And you know what? You didn't abuse yourself. Whoever I'm talking to.
That's right.
You didn't abuse yourself. That's not what you went in expecting. What you did is survived.
That's right.
That alone is worth talking about.
Yes.
You survived it. And every day you got up and figured out how to take one more step.
That's right.
Go to work one more day, drive another mile, do another grocery run, and knowing full well you were coming back home to that nonsense, but you did it and you made it through and you made it to the other side and you jumped. That's something to be more than proud of.
Absolutely.
I hope somebody is listening. The story is about you, but it's not for you. You've got to tell it.
Got to tell it.
Got to tell it. All right. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Domestic violence. This is my next question. It has so many components. I know people tend to focus on the physical because that's what they can see. Like that's the obvious signs of domestic violence. But it has many components, emotional, the mental, psychological part of it. A lot of times people don't talk about the sexual abuse that takes place even in marriages, the sexual abuse that takes place, spiritual abuse, and financial abuse. Those are all common, very common. So this might be hard because there's so much to tell.
Yeah.
But I know you've been experienced at doing this because you know how it helps others heal. It's cathartic. Tell us your story of abuse and survival. And which components, was it the mental, the psychological, the physical, which components were the greatest? So you start wherever you want to in your story, because I know it's a lot. Tell it like a TI is. My mom says that. Tell it like a TI is. That's old school.
Right, that's right. That's right. Well. My story. It began. In my marriage. I was married, and that story turned as I turned the pages of that marriage. It started. The pages of those pages began to write out. It began to show abuse in a lot of different forms. You named a lot of those forms, but it was definitely mentally. It was definitely physically and spiritually. I married my husband, and there were immediately signs that I began to see, things he would say, that angered him, and I had no clue as to what it was. He would say, I heard, in the spiritually that, you were saying these things about me, or you were doing these things, against me. And I'm thinking, I'm like, my God, what is he talking about? God, I know this can't be from you, because one is not true. And, secondly, why, why is this happening? And why is it, manifesting in the spiritual, and those ties, kind of being brought into it. And then I started to see him begin to just isolate, himself. And in that isolation, he began to get more angry and more angry and more angry. And again, I didn't understand, what was happening and what was causing this. What was it? Something I was doing? It was, was it I not, in a place spiritually that I needed to be in, or, what did I invite, into this situation? Again, I'm pointing at me now, right? I'm realizing this because I'm like, surely it's something that I'm doing, something that I did, something I didn't do. And get this, in our relationship, in our marriage, seemingly, he was the one that was the most seasoned, the most spiritual, and the most, knowledgeable in the faith, right?
So we're talking about another Christian.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
We're both believers, both, in the word, and in the Lord.
In church together.
In church together, right? And so that was, for me, I was thinking, what was it that I was doing? What was it that I was inviting? Why was this happening? What was I doing, to cause all of this? So about 1 week shy of our 1 year anniversary is when the mental attacks with the, emotional, and the, and the things that were being said, about me, and those things kind of morphed into the physical. And I remember that night, that day, actually, he called, and he was very upset because he had heard some things spiritually that he felt, that I was, that was wrong. And he wasn't at the home at the time. And I remember picking up the phone, and I called. I said, something's not right here. And I'm afraid, of what's going to happen when he gets home. And so when he came home that evening, he was visibly very upset because he'd been, again, hearing things. And there were things spiritually that he said that he was hearing. And that's when the attack came. And that was the first sign of the physical, because I guess mentally, I wasn't sure what was happening. I was just in this state of just existing and being, and it became physical that particular evening.
I mean, like literally, he hit.
Oh,
you?
absolutely, closed fist. And it was, and I remember just just covering and just trying. It was like an out-of-body experience, because it wasn't anything that I had ever expected would happen.
Right.
So it was actually as if I was just looking at myself and looking at the situation as it was unfolding, and as this person was, was physically assaulting me. And from that point, I was praying throughout this entire time, and I don't know, he stopped, and I was able to call someone, and I was able to leave. But then again, because of the mental effect of it, I didn't know what to do. I'm early 20s. I'm just married. I mean, less than a year, newlywed, pretty much. I wasn't raised that, you divorce or you do, anything like that. I wasn't talked to about, abuse or physical abuse, especially being in the church and things of that nature. So all of this was new to me. I didn't know what to do. I was taught, you pray and you stay. So that's what I did,
Pray and stay.
I pray and stay, and, we stay, we have those stories, and everybody has those stories for their different reasons.
Yeah.
And that was mine, and so I stayed, And the abuse continued, the mental abuse, not only that, the physical abuse, but I even want to touch on, it wasn't so much the physical as far as the, the hitting and those things, but it was also the physical withdrawal from the marriage and from the relationship as well, with the isolation of himself. He was no longer available to me, or, and
that's a part of the pain, isn't it? You're trying to connect.
Oh, absolutely. And especially after you've experienced the most painful rejection of all, from your husband, the person that you're one with, the person that's to protect you is a person that's, physically, attacking you. And then it's the rejection of that. So I'm here and I'm like, oh my God, what's happening? I don't know what to do. And of course we go through the separation piece of it. And I talk about this a lot. You have to separate. If you're going to separate with a plan. You don't separate just to physically remove yourself, but you separate with a plan and get those things in order so that you can understand and make the best decision for yourself going forward. But needless to say, it continued. All of those different elements, the emotional, mental, physical, spiritual, all of those things still in play. And it continued. And then I had to make a decision, right? Now I'm at a decision in my life. Now I'm saying, God, is this the best that you have for me? I remember in one of the attacks, as he was strangling me, and I was losing consciousness. And I remember just crying out to the Lord. I'm like, Lord, is this how you want me to die? Is this how you want me to die? Is this how you want me to leave here? And I remember feeling like his hands, I just remember seeing something removing, the hands just removing from my neck, and I slid on the floor, grateful that I was still alive at that point. And then the attacks got worse, and to the point where the last time I was able to get away, I barely was able to get away. And I remember that was a crossroads. I had to say, God, is this the best that you have for me? What is it that I need to do? And I'm going to be very honest. I remember many a nights crying in despair. But then I started, one night in particular, I was home, separated and, waiting for the divorce and all of those things. But I remember being home. I remember being on my face. And I remember saying, I know the enemy comes to kill, steal, and destroy, but he don't even have to work that hard right now because I'm done. I'm done. He don't ever have to work. I'm going to make it very easy for him because I'm done. I can't go through this anymore because now I'm dealing with, my faith now, is at the point where, I'm questioning my faith. I'm questioning who I am. I'm questioning whose I am. I'm questioning a lot of things about this because this was not the way my story was supposed to happen, right? I grew up in the church. I always knew I'm going to serve the Lord and I'm going to be married and we're going to serve the Lord together, right? So this was not the plan that I saw, right? But God knows. So I'm on my face and I'm just crying and I'm just, just done. And I remember as I was just crying and wailing, and then I remember those sounds began to formulate into words. And all I could do is just thank you, Lord. I thank you, God. Lord, I thank you. And I started to go into praise and thanking God. And then I remembered who he was. I got a glimpse of who he was. And when I got a glimpse of who he was, that praise started to worship. It started to turn into worship. You are Jehovah Jireh. You are a provider. You are a healer. You are peace. So in that, and as that praise transitioned into worship, it was at that moment, Angelique, I committed to the Lord. I said, Lord, when you get me out of this.
When you get me out, not if.
You get me.
When you get me out.
Right, not if, because at this point now, me and God is on the same track now. We vibing now, right? I know who he is. I'm reminded of who he is. And
yes,
who
indeed.
He is to me and who I am in him. So at this point, it's not if. or how you're going to do it. It's when you're going to do, when you do it. And it's not even my time frame, God. It's not even do it tomorrow, do it now. It's just when. And when you do it, I will use my story for your glory. And I said, Lord, whatever that looks like, whatever the blueprint is, you lay it before me and I would do it. And it took some time of healing. I remember, I would have jam night, Jesus and me.
Jesus and me?
Jesus and me. We jam. It's jam night. Jesus and me.
You are the acronym queen. It's official. It's official. It's official.
Yes. And so that's what, and that's what it was. It was that healing, and I started to really focus, release that pain and that healing to God. And I'll talk a little bit more about it, but that started that process to my survival.
Yes, survival.
Because it's not just survival for me. It was, okay, Lord, like I said, when you get me out of this, it wasn't about, when I survive, it's about the next level for me. I had to thrive, I'm going to survive because I know your word, your promises are true. So I'm going to survive it. But I'm going to thrive it as well.
Listen, you had way more mental clarity than I did, because I just thought the world was just closing. I didn't have that moment of when you get, and then I didn't have that. I felt like there was no air in the room.
Yeah.
Like there was nothing left. And we'll talk about this in a second.
But Angelique, remember, that was a path, because when I initially was on my face, it wasn't for the Lord. It was to get out of this. It was
I'm with you.
So it was a journey through that. It didn't start that way. I get you. It was very difficult.
Tanika, take us back to, and I'm jumping around questions because, I try to like prep you, but I'm going to jump. Sorry. Take us back to that literal situation in as much detail as you are willing to provide. The moment when you knew you had to jump. What happened that was like, I gotta get out of here? What night, what day, what happened? What did he do?
Well, I remember one night, one day, we were in the car and we were going to visit his mom and family. And he was in this state of agitation and frustration. And we are barreling down the highway. And he is not himself. He is, and he's angry. And again, I don't know why. And I don't, and all I can do is just sit there. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to die. Because, he was not even it didn't appear that he was even in control of the car. He was just gunning it, driving. And I'm
like 90, 100 miles an hour,
yes,
like whatever.
Down the highway. And it was just, and he was so visibly angry. And I just remember praying to God. I'm like, God, oh my God, please, God, just praying. And all of a sudden he stopped to a gas station. And I remember sitting there like, do I run? What do I do?
Right.
And there was a peace. And I sat there and he said, we're going home. And we went home. After that point, I knew I got to jump. Yeah. I have to jump, because what I'm thinking at this point is, if this is as good as it gets, is that good enough? If it never changes, is that good enough?
Definitely not, right?
Definitely not. So I knew at this point, it's not a decision that has to be made in consideration of, if he does better or I have to now make a decision based off of what I'm dealing with and what the situation is presenting for myself. So I knew at that point, if I want to live and if I want to live, and not only physically, but emotionally.
Yes.
Spiritually, if I want to live.
Yeah, it isn't just being able to wake up the next day.
Right.
There's a thing called existing.
Right.
And there's a thing called living.
Right.
And when you are in that domestic violence situation and you're in that survival mode, that's not living. You are literally surviving moment to moment. You are on pins and needles. You are constantly, what I say, you're on like high alert at all times. What is going on? What's about to happen? What's
am I going to?
Girl, I think about, it's interesting to me that a lot of women, a lot of survivors have stories of being in the car. This is a common thing. I want y'all to listen. A lot of survivors have stories of being in a car with their abuser who guns it down the highway, drives so fast, they're begging them to slow down, and there's no slowing down in sight. Listen, I may never get her on our show, but there was a woman in our class. If you remember, I think she went last because she had something happen to her. She had to go to the hospital. So she ended up going last. She told us that story of being in the car with her abuser. Wow. And he went so fast and kept going. And she begged him to slow down. He is going down the highway like a maniac. And then he hit the brakes and unlocked her seatbelt, hit the button and unlocked her seatbelt. And she went flying forward into the windshield, all busted her up. Wow. I hear these stories a lot. So between the situation in the car, I don't know at what point he has strangled you, all the other things you experienced, him close fist hitting, the bottom line is, this is what it's going to be. He is teaching me what our relationship is going forward. And I have no control over what the next thing's going to be.
No.
So something about you being in that car.
Yeah, it was
flashed before you.
Life flashing, and it had happened. And again, remember, I'm still dealing with, spiritually, am I supposed to divorce? Am I not? Or what's supposed to happen? But my life, when your life again, it was my life flashed before me in a different way. And I think also another thing that's really important is you have to really be true and really assess your situation and assess the person. Is he capable of making the changes that he says he's going to make? Has he demonstrated any of that? Has he taken advantage of anything that's going to help change the situation or for this situation to look any differently? If that answer is no,
then it's no. Right?
It's no. It's no.
Because I've been there too, where it looks like, because they know how to play the game. Let me go to this counseling session, right?
Yes.
I love you. I want to be with you. I want my family. And then y'all go back and get in the car and it's like, just like right back to it, right?
Yeah.
I've been there.
Yeah.
So I got to ask you, because you mentioned church. I'm a Christian woman. I know your story and I have my own story in relation to church. But think about your connections. Where were your support systems during this process, right? So you obviously had church members, you had family, you had colleagues, you had all kinds of things. Where were your support system? Where were they at this time?
My support system, and I will say, in the span of in my marriage, I did find a church that when I left my marriage, I did find a church. I was in a church actually where I grew phenomenally. If I had been in that church in the beginning, things probably would have looked a lot differently.
I can see that.
So I did have the support eventually of a great church family, and my family, was a huge support for me. When I finally told them, what was happening, they were a huge support for me in that they didn't, judge, they didn't try to overpower or influence, but they loved me and they loved on me. I had great friends. I talk about in the book, some friends, we would have wings night, and we do some wings and just talk. And I had great friends and support from family and my church and my faith.
Yeah. The church that you guys were in together when you were married, did they know? Did they see it?
Right. And in the onset, when we were married and we were in Charlotte, the church that we were in, they did know, but they weren't equipped to help. Some didn't understand it, some, said, well, it's, it's just his, you just pray about it. And, and I'm like, okay, but what do I do when I have prayed? And I am praying, but I'm being physically, my
Yeah.
wife,
I'm being assaulted.
I'm being assaulted,
Yes.
what do I do? And unfortunately, at that time, and these, several years ago, at the time, they weren't equipped to help with that at that particular, phase, that stage of what we were going through, so. But like I said, once I moved on and got grounded into and that's not to say that all churches are not, because there is space in churches that are helping and that understand and can provide what's necessary. This being 10, 15 years ago, 12 years ago, but things are a lot different. There's still work to do, but yeah.
And so if you missed the beginning of the show, Tanika and I, we attended the same domestic violence speakers bureau training back in 2018. And shortly thereafter, what happens is when you're in a speakers bureau, the idea is to go out and speak, right? To find churches, organizations, corporations, right? Universities, whatever it may be, to be able to spread this message about domestic violence, to bring more awareness. Well, she and I took on one of the speaking engagements at a church, because both of our stories have a lot to do with the church. And so for me, I agree with you that there are churches who will say, oh, no, not here.
Right.
A big part of the problem, there are churches who cover it. And literally, unfortunately, will say, well, keep praying while they don't do anything to support you. And that is I went through that, right? I went through that where I needed something in the back end. I needed some support. They were all that was part of I was in that family. I was in the family, and got no real assistance with what was happening to me. So it gets really hard, because you look at church as a safe haven, right? And unfortunately, like you said, was this 12 years ago about?
About 12 years ago.
They didn't know what to do, but to tell you, but to try to give you the same recipe that they may be giving other people for less significant situations, let's just say.
Right.
So I'm so grateful that you were able to find something new that gave you what you needed, because what could have happened, let's talk about what could have happened, could have turned your back on God completely, because of their lack of doing what they should have done and addressing that situation in the church. But I thank God that you remain rooted, and you found you found a support system who helped you to maintain your spiritual walk.
Right. And I will say, Angelique, and that support came from a church, church too.
Yep.
So again, I do want to say that, while that experience, I don't believe that they were equipped to handle it, because nobody was talking about it.
Nobody was talking about it.
Nobody was talking about it. Nobody. So they didn't know how to handle it at that time. But I think, as we said, as this begins to continue to be, something that is showing up even in the church, the conversations is opening up the room for conversations. Like we went out to the church and we had that. And, when I moved to Columbia, South Carolina, and met, my church family, and they embraced me and loved me through that, that's where most of the most profound healing that I ever experienced was because of the church, and really changing the narrative for me was because of the church. So,
I'm so glad, because I'm so glad that God stepped in and reminded you of who He was, because how easy. And listen, let me tell you, if you're watching right now, me and Tanika might be on for extra something, because we got some things to discuss. But because when you're in a situation of abuse, you begin to see, perceive, think, smell, hear everything through their eyes, nose, ears, mind. You begin to see the world through the wrong lens.
Right.
So I'm so glad that somehow you were able to, you remembered who you were. Like I got this quote that says, she remembered who she was, and the game changed. And the game changed. You remember who you were.
That's
and
right.
You remember who you were in him.
In him. first and
And
foremost.
him. So
Absolutely.
Jacob is on here. He's one of my other podcasters. He's in the same network. Jacob always got complex questions, so get ready. I'm messing with you, Jacob. He wrote, how was the situation for you mentally, emotionally, and spiritually? I think we're getting into some of that. What's the kind of like the thoughts when you close your eyes to try to go to sleep? Oh, I remember those days. Ooh. But yet your abuser still states he loves you so much. How was the process for you facing your family? What did his mother and father think when they found out that their son was a total monster? How did you move forward and face society? All right, so some of these questions are coming later, but what's the thought that you used to have when you closed your eyes and tried to go to sleep and your abuser was still telling you that he loved you? And I'm going to assume he was telling you that he loves you. I'm going to assume, but I don't know.
Well, and that was a little bit different for me, because he had actually kind of removed himself from the marriage.
Yes.
As far as that goes, there were times when he would, say that, he would change and that, he loved me or what have you. But in all honesty, because of that fear and everything that I was going through, closing my eyes was not easy. There were many nights I couldn't sleep, or I didn't sleep,
Or it was just 2 or 3 hours, right?
Or it was just 2 or 3 hours. You're right. I'm sleep, so it wasn't that because there was not a peace there, because I'm thinking, I don't know what's happening here. I don't know what's going on in his mind or what he's thinking. I will say, though, that his family was some of the most supportive people.
Okay.
My experience was different in that aspect as well, because his family, once they realized what was going on and once it was exposed what was going on, they were more than supportive of me. I'm
so glad that was your experience.
That was my experience, and I have to say that, along with my family. I know that was one of the questions that Jacob asked, but
yeah, I'm going to put him back up. Let's see. How was the process for you facing your family?
The process for me facing my family was very difficult because I was living out of town. So I had no family in the area. And when I moved to Charlotte, North Carolina, I didn't have family. I had one brother who moved later on, but my family wasn't there. Yeah. And my parents and my family always known me to be the strong person. So having to come out and tell them, what was happening, of course, they worried tremendously about me and for me. But once I did, and I told them my truth, again, they just loved on me. They prayed for me, prayed with me, and was always there to help me. A great support system once I, shared with them what was happening.
All right, we're going to save his last question until we get to that question in our list. But I want you to think back. This is always tough. Yeah. Think back to the beginning of the relationship, the dating part, the courting. I imagine you probably, since you old school church woman, you were courting. That's what they call that. Okay. In case anybody want to know, that's what it's called. So thinking back to that, the beginning. So when you started seeing things happening and you were kind of like, I don't like that, but okay. What are some of those boundaries that you now see? You looking back, you like, duh, right? You now see he pushed. What are some of those yellows and those red flags that you see now that you overlooked then?
Well, most importantly, looking back, because there were times when, he shared things with me about hearing things or seeing things that I was, the paranoia of me being against him or things. Those were absolutely signs.
Yes.
Absolutely signs that should not have been ignored. Another sign is I knew that there were some things that he was dealing with from his past that he had not allowed healing for himself on,
Okay.
and deliverance on. And the thing of it is too, is if you have those situations with someone and they've not dealt with those things or won't deal with those things, it can and will manifest
Yes, it will.
in your marriage or in your relationship. So that was a red flag, that there was not any any push to address those things either. And if you're not willing to address them for yourself, when it's just yourself that's being impacted, how can you address them with someone else? So those were.
Did he ever call you out your name? Did he ever before the obvious abuse? Did he ever call you out your name? Did he ever?
No.
Okay. Did he ever like speak to you in a way that like scared you?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. When he felt like there were things that, because again, he was thinking that there was things spiritually that he was hearing and seeing, and spiritually that, so he was very, the way that he would speak during those times were very harsh, very aggressive.
Let me ask you a kind of a strange question, but maybe you'll understand what I'm asking. When he was saying those things to you, I'm hearing things in the spirit, I'm this, I'm that. Do you believe he was completely putting on a show? Like, I'm going to say this to her because she's such a spiritual woman that she's going to listen, and I know that I'm a tap dance on that nerve because she gonna listen to me because she's so spiritual? Or do you think he literally thought like there was something going on with him, that he literally thought that was the case?
I think it was probably both.
Okay.
I really do think it was probably both.
Some of both.
Mm-hmm.
Some manipulation, something just wrong with you.
Yes, some manipulation, something is just definitely not right there, and again, I think it came from, other areas of being unhealed as well,
Yes.
But definitely because we were both, in the church, and, that was our language. So it was easier to, to use that.
To make you go, oh my gosh, what am I not doing as a wife? And I got you. Mm-hmm. Let's see. Jacob he has two more questions sitting here. Let me see if I can pull up one. Did fear cause you not to love yourself? And how did your faith in the will of God and the word of God get you to this level of life? I think, or get you to the next level of life? I'm not sure.
Okay.
It's a tough one. I think let's take the first part. Did fear cause you not to love yourself?
Oh, absolutely. I think the rejection, more of it, the fear and the rejection at one point did cause me, not to love myself. And that's why I think when you're in a cycle of abuse, and when you're in a relationship that's abusive, the first thing that is impacted is your identity and your love, your self-love. That's one of the first things that's attacked, because it keeps you in that state. It keeps you right there. So I didn't love myself. I the fear and the rejection of it all, because right at the end of the day, you still love that person. You love that person. You're being abused and you love that person, right? But you have to love yourself. And it's at the moment when you love and that was one of the things that I had to ask myself, do I love myself? Do I love him more than myself?
Listen, and it's like, I know this, one of the key tactics in domestic violence is to make you question everything about who you are, what you know, what you think, to the point where you feel like they're trying to create this environment where they are the answer to it all. Right. And you to question your own thoughts, your own logic, your own knowledge. And that's a part of it. And once someone gets in your head that far, it is very easy to make you question yourself and how much you love yourself.
Absolutely.
And you think back to it, and you're just like, gosh, how did I allow that? You start thinking, how did I allow that? I know who I am. My mama, my daddy raised me a certain way.
Yeah, I would never go through this.
I would never go through this. Right. And it's like, but then you got this person who you fell in love with.
Yes.
And they used that love, that genuine love that you were displaying and having for them, to their advantage, to manipulate the situation. It is just a very, it's disgusting.
I think it's something important in what Jacob's, this is his last part of his question.
Yep.
And how did faith in the will of God and the word of God get you to the next level of life? I will say it's all about that relationship with God. Like you said, when you remember who you are and whose you are and who
Game
you are in
changes.
Him, that relationship, that's where my relationship with the Lord was built upon that, and and that's important, so absolutely, that's what got me to the next level. I never became bitter about, marriage, about love, about any of that thing, because I know that God is real, and although that this was a relationship, it wasn't that I just didn't have a good marriage. It was the person who I was married to, and not the marriage. But yeah,
Girl, you saying a bunch of good stuff. Let me just throw a plug out here right now, because if y'all listening, like I'm listening, this sister got some things to say. So listen, you're saying a lot of stuff. I know you're a speaker. We know you have a book. Like, if people want to find you, where can they go? Where can they find you, baby?
They can find me. My website is www.IamEmpoweredLLC.com. Tanika at IamEmpowered.com. And yeah, I mean, I speak I like show my book, and
Hey, we got more to talk about, but I just want to throw that in there real quick. So it's IamEmpoweredLLC.com, correct? Yeah. Listen, if you want more information about Tanika, because she's awesome, I want to make sure that you guys can find her. That book, The Life of a Single Wife. Give us a quick synopsis. We'll get back to the questions in a second. Give us a quick synopsis of that. Think that concept, the life of a single wife.
It's uncovered the life of a single wife, and it just really kind of goes through the 4 stages of relationship when you're uncovered and you're single, and the things that you need to be thinking about and focusing on. A lot of times we focus on the wedding and the marriage and the man, but that is spiritual more so than it is natural. When the two become one, is real, and you have to make sure you know who you are, right, Jacob? You got to know who you are and whose you are before that time, and when you connect with someone else. So we talk about that. We talk about even when you are married and what that looks like, what that marital order look like when you're separated, and if you're single again, when you find yourself divorced and single again and having to navigate these new waters now. Because when you're single again, you're not just single, you're single again. When you're divorced, you're single again. You never go back to being single, because you've had the familiarity of covenant, right? So you come out of that being single again. How do I transition to that? So it's really talking about how to transition through all of the stages of relationship, and especially when there's abuse. I talk about abuse. I talk about how to separate when you are going through abuse, what that looks like, and then just how to reclaim your life in the single again. How do you reclaim your life, once you've gone through pain, and how do you get to the purpose beyond the pain?
Oh my goodness. And say the name of that book again.
It is called Uncover the Life of a Single Wife.
We are going to put that up here. Look at that. I love Jacob. I want to show this comment here that he said. You see that?
Oh, thank you, Jacob. I love you, Queen Bryant. I love this. Thank you.
Gotta put that one up there. Listen, Tanika, and I'm gonna get this right. I'm gonna get this link out here, even if I have to post it after the fact. But listen, you guys, there's a particular link we want you to use to buy this book. Again, Uncover the Life of a Single Wife. Picture that. I mean, there are phases, there's so much going on in that situation, and you have the perspective of being a Christian woman,
yes,
who's seen the bottom. Let's call it that. Now we on top, like the rap song. Been to the bottom, now we on top. You've been there, and so this book that you took the time to write, and I know you wrote it over time and revised and went back. I know.
God gave me that book to write many years ago, and I prayed over every page because I wanted deliverance for anyone who read this book, for it to bring deliverance to them. So yes, I prayed over it, and you know, and I'm just excited that, you know, it is out and it is blessing.
I love it. So I got a couple more things, because people talk about the cost of domestic violence, like and then people usually think, oh, you know, what happened to your face, what happened to your body, but hold on, let's back up a second. When you think about the cost of domestic violence for you, whether that was mental, emotional, financial, whatever, how would you put that together? What did it cost you?
Well, I like to sum that up. It was like learning my ABCs all over again.
Ooh.
I started off abused, broken, and confused. So it cost me, you know, some time mentally. It cost me some, you know, peace. It cost me, you know, temporarily my identity. So it was to me ABCs: abused, broken, and confused. However, I don't like to stop at what it cost, right? Because that was temporary. Because again, when I came to myself, right, and when I remembered who I am and whose I am, then the ABCs of abused, broken, and confused,
they change, don't they? They
change, right? They change to achiever, blessed, and confident. So I don't stop with what it costs, right? I go beyond that to what it is and what it.
I'm stealing that, Tanika. I'm stealing it.
Yes.
Give us that one more time. So before, when you were in the situation, it was
abused, broken, and confused.
But God. So after the fact, what was that ABC?
Achiever, blessed, and confident.
I'm stealing it. I'm kidding. I think that is, I love it. Listen, y'all, this woman, when you get to the place where she is, first of all, I hope y'all see the sunshine in her face like I see the sunshine in her face. And these acronyms are not just things that she happens to come up with. They come from a very, very special place. And I'm going to ask you if you don't mind, because when I told her what the name of the episode was, It's Time to Jump, she even had an acronym for that. What was your JUMP acronym?
JUMP is just using my power.
Just using my power. So,
so if you want to know how to jump, think about your power. Just use your power. And that will help you to jump and help you to get to where you need to be. Just use your power.
You know,
because we all have it. Even in those situations, we all have power. You know, God gives us power. He gives us the strength to do anything, right? Because he will never leave us or forsake us, right? So he is our power. So all we have to do is just use my power.
I love it. And you know what? It's so amazing, because when I speak to survivors, a lot of times it's, I don't have this and I don't have that. And because you're in survival mode, you see what he had you seeing. Or if it's a guy, you see what she had you seeing, right? So, and you got to teach from a strengths perspective.
Yes.
You got to remind survivors that there are things that you are not accounting for that are on your side, on the pros side, not just the con side. You got some things on your pros side.
Yes.
And I'm going to spend some time helping you see that, you know what? You might not think about it because he tried to make you forget you're a creative writer. Remember that? You do math very well. You speak very well. You know, or you do math quickly in your head. Whatever those assets are, those strengths are, those are the things we have to push survivors to remember. Remember who she was, and the game changed. It changed, but you have to get to that place and stop seeing yourselves through the lens of somebody who means you know well in the first place. Don't get me started. Okay. All right. So here's the thing. You got out, but your story did not end there. We've heard glimpses of this or that. We know you got a book now. We know you got a website. I am empoweredllc.com. We know you got a website, but I want to understand better. You had this journey to healing. You have a life today. Tell us what life is like today. What are you doing today?
Wow. Life for me is so much sweeter, and it gets sweeter as the day go by. That's old school church, right? It gets sweeter as the day go by. Like you said, the journey to get there, again focusing on how to best use what God has given me and what He's
Exactly.
brought me out of to help others. And so, with starting with the speaking, and I knew that I needed to get this in a book. I knew I needed to make this a resource that's available to people to be able to get the resources and the tips that they needed. So I'm actively speaking and, sharing my story, sharing,
Exactly.
that testimony, and educating and empowering and advocating for domestic violence and awareness.
Yes.
As well. I've even done some work on the corporate level in developing domestic violence policies
Which
for
is
the
awesome.
workplace. Which was huge and which was great and that I absolutely love. And just really volunteering and mentoring and working with women who are abused is what my life looks like today. And I couldn't be
I am
happier.
so happy about that, because you are a career woman, right?
Absolutely.
You're doing very well. And that energy that comes from you, that light that's just in you, it just does something for me. I think you already know that. And so I am so glad, because we could be telling a different story today. You
Yeah.
told us that man had his hands around your throat,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and you
Yeah.
prayed and you asked God for something in particular. And he
Mm-hmm.
stepped right on and said, not today, not my daughter, not today.
My daughter. That's right.
So I am just grateful, because there are people and women, men too, and I never want to forget the men that
Right. Right.
they didn't jump.
Right.
They didn't jump soon enough. And so I'm just so grateful. I've got another question from Jacob. I never want to ignore his questions, because they're always really, 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 really good. So I'm going to have you read that one. I want you to converse with Jacob a little bit right now.
Yeah. What level of domestic violence affects the mental capacity of a woman? Can she truly love again? And Queen Bryant, did your spiritual gifts save your life? Oh, he's got great questions.
You got great questions, I told you.
Absolutely. I think domestic violence absolutely affects mental capacity of a woman in a lot of different ways. It's a huge impact to mental capacity in a lot of different ways. But can a woman love again? Oh, absolutely. And that's one of the things I thank God for, is because He never let me get bitter. He always reminded me and showed me that it was not marriage that was, that abused me. It was a person, right? And it just was not the right person. It was not the person for me. However, that doesn't mean that there is not, a person. And, so He never let my heart get hard where I couldn't love again. So I always look forward to that and continue, and will always look forward to that in the manifestation of what that love looks like in perfect harmony with God's word. So yes, that never, and I think that is absolutely true, especially when you have a relationship with the Father and you know who you are, whose you are, and you flow in that absolutely you can love again. Did my spiritual gifts save my life? Absolutely. I love to speak. I love to write. So I'm able to use those gifts that God has given me in this for such a time as this and for this platform. And it was when like I said, when I was on my face and I told Him, when you get me out of this, I will use this story for your glory. That was because I'm thinking about, again, all of the things that God has gifted me and God has put into me and that purpose that He has for my life and walking that out. And that to me meant more than staying where I was. I could have stayed in the pain of it all and in the rejection of it all, but that meant more to me. And I do believe that's what helped to save my life and really turn things around. So now I got another acronym for you. So I like to consider it, my way of hitting back. I hit back, and I said that's HITT, heal internally, transform, and then thrive. Hit back. Use your life, use your message to hit back, hit back at domestic violence by healing internally and then transforming and thriving. You know,
Come on now.
That's the best way to hit back. You don't have to do it with these, right?
Woo! Heal internally, transform, and thrive. Y'all catch that? Did you just make that up? I mean, goodness gracious. No, it's good. It's good. Because let me tell you something. It is very easy.
Yeah.
It is very easy to get on a show like this and, you know, give people I was mad about this. But can I just say one thing? Mm-hmm. I was bitter. Oh. Okay, let me just say that. I'll come back to that in a second. Mm-hmm. I was bitter.
Yeah.
But it's it's very easy to come on here and say all that stuff because, you know, people kind of expect that. You are giving another perspective that maybe people don't hear. Mm-hmm. And I got to tell you, I know it's grounded in your faith. I know it's grounded in your faith. Absolutely. Because if the only person you had to look to was, I'm going to take the license to say this, was that fool? If that was your only perspective of what a man was and what a godly man was supposed to be, you'd be lost.
Right.
Thank God you know what's in that word.
Yes.
Thank God you have had your own experiences with the Father. Thank God you know what having the Holy Spirit really means. Because if your only experience had been through him, you would never know.
Right.
You would never know. Mm-hmm. And you would be bitter and all that kind of stuff and not able to love again. Because you would have understood love based on an incorrect definition.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Come on now.
Absolutely.
Come on now. Now, on the flip side, like I said, I was. Yeah. It took me a minute. Church, who? Go what? Who, church, where, why? No, I can't do that. I can't do that. Mm-hmm. Because what I learned about church and the leadership of church and church families and all of that was that they cover for each other. That's what I learned. So I had a lot of pain. And I learned that people in church won't acknowledge what's happening because it's easier to get up and keep clapping and keep singing the next song while you sit there and struggle and they don't say a word to really, 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 really help you. Even after when they had a chance to. That's what I learned. So it took me a second. And go on a date with a man. Why? For what? So they could be just like the other one? Right? That was me. I struggled for a minute. And then I got myself together and realized this chocolate right here is sexy. I got it together.
Get it together.
And I realized what I said earlier to you, which is she remembered who she was and the game changed. Mm-hmm. I was who I was before him in God, a praise dancer, teaching the youth to dance, teaching the adults to dance, expressing my love and my praise through dance.
Yes.
My body and my soul and my life is for him, not for him.
Right.
So it took me a second too. I'm with you. Oh, wait, let's see what Jacob said next. What did he say next? Queen Bryant, the purpose and power of your speaking has, I'm not getting that, elevating a teaching of the Apostle of Paul in the Bible.
Woo!
Woo! As my dad used to say, we pray for a heart that knows no ill and love that embraces and divine love that uplifts mankind's soul.
Amen.
There is a poet by the name of Jacob Anderson II that is on this podcast tonight.
Oh, wow.
Thank you, Jacob. I'm still processing that one right there.
Yes, that's deep.
Pray for a heart that knows no ill and love that embraces and divine love that uplifts not a single person's soul. Right. He said mankind's soul.
Absolutely.
Y'all saying some stuff that might show up in one of my books one day. I'll give you credit. I'm totally messing up. All right, okay. So one more time, because this is a straight up plug. I ain't lying. This woman right here is precious. Okay. So tell us again, where can we find you? What's that website address again?
www.iamempoweredllc.com.
All right. And say they just wanted to have a personal moment with you. They wanted to send you a message just directly to Tanika. Where can they find you on email?
Tanika at iamempoweredllc.com.
I love it.
Yeah.
All right, so that's iamempoweredllc.com, Tanika at iamempoweredllc.com, and that book I want y'all to use, and she wants you to use that link that we put into the chat or the comments. The book, Uncovered, the Life of a Single Wife. There's more in that book than you think. So I am so proud of you and thankful for your life.
I'm proud of you.
Yes,
Thank you for yet another platform, and you show up every week and you hit domestic violence in the face. You hitting it. So I'm loving it. I was so excited. I'm so excited to be here.
listen, because you know what? Have it their way, whoever they may be. This all stays under the rug. It stays within the four walls like it did when it was happening, right? Oh, no, no more. This podcast is called Silent No More for a reason. What for? Silent for who? So that you can keep doing what you're doing? So that more people can be hurt by you and whoever else that does these things? No, like you said, if I could just get to one, so they never go through it, or at least help them get out of it. I have served my purpose. I have done my part. So listen, everybody, I want to be really, really clear. Tanika is a beautiful, smart, accomplished woman. We've talked about this. Stop thinking domestic violence is just these chicks that happen to these ones that got this guy. No, it doesn't work that way. It's not about education. It's not about any of that stuff. How much money you, it's none of that. It happens to all kinds of amazing women who have done phenomenal things, but who will still do phenomenal things after. So I just want to make sure we're clear about that. Women who find themselves in these relationships, believe me, we all thought they were amazing and charming. They showed us that side. We got duped a little bit. All right. We got played in a major way. But God has us sitting here today looking like we look and living like we're living and still honoring and serving the one true God. So I am so grateful for that. I want to say a few more things. Please hear me. This is my messaging at the end. The behaviors of abusers is calculated. Do not be misled. It didn't just come out of nowhere. This stuff is calculated. They're not crazy. They're not sick. They are not confused. They are not angry with you for real. They're not angry with you. It isn't anger driving this. There's nothing you could do or could not do that was going to stop what occurred. This is a choice. It's manipulation. It's abuse. So you have to pay attention. So be very careful. The one thing I want to also share at this time is I had a friend, my sister's friend actually. When I got out of my situation, I was so lost in what he did to me and how he hurt me and how he took me through and what he. And my sister's friend, her name is Jack, and my nickname is Shorty. Tanika, I don't know if you know my nickname is Shorty. And I say this fairly often because I got to say some things that need to stick with people. She says, Shorty, I need you to stop saying he because you are so focused on him and what he did to you. Forget that. She said, put a paper bag over his face. Put a paper bag over his face and pay attention to the personality because that personality will show up again with a different face. And you have to recognize the personality so you don't find yourself back in what is called the cycle of abuse. Who wants to be there again? None of us. So put a paper bag. Listen, I put many paper bags over many faces so I could watch the personality. And like, oh, not you. Nope, nope, nope. I see that coming a mile away now. So we are here to uncover the signs. We are here to make people more aware of something called domestic violence, something that is so pervasive. It is destroying families, societies, whole communities. It is in any nation around the world. So Tanika and I spend our time sharing this message because it has to be heard. It has to be shared because we don't want anyone else to go through. We can't stop it today, but daggone it, if you have it our way, Tanika, we stop it today. We stop it all today. But at the end of the day, look at us sitting here.
Yes.
Sir thriving.
Sir thriving.
Sir thriving. I want to ask you just real quick, are there any final thoughts that you would like to share with whoever's watching now or who will watch the recording later?
Well, to anyone out there, again, if this is something that you find yourself in, or you know someone who is experiencing that, definitely there's resources out there to get out, to jump. Just use power. Just use your power and jump and be reminded of those times when, you know, I know you may feel like sometimes you may not be strong, but just remember, if it's just a little bit of strength that you've had, that's all you need, and you can always jump.
Ooh.
And we're here with you. We're sisters in the fight with you.
Yes. Yeah. And listen, I know you guys know I'm here every week at laddermastersgroup.com. Listen, I've got every single episode of this podcast goes on YouTube. Whatever the message is, you need to look for, and tell me if I'm not hitting on the right message. Tell me a topic. I will make it happen on this show, and I will have the right people on here to talk about it, because I got to know what you need so I can properly feed you. Right? I got to give you that information. Hey, so I don't know if it's pronounced Terrell or Terrell, so I'm going to say them both because I like to respect the pronunciation of names. But you wrote some names in here, and if you could comment again, let us know. You wrote more names in here. Are these women who have experienced domestic violence? Or are these women who have who speak out against domestic violence? Tell us who these names are, because I want to appreciate every single one of them. I'm trying to look for a next message. He put a smiley face, but Terrell or Terrell, if you could tell us the significance of these ladies' names, because I want to make sure I appreciate them during this moment. That's important to me. Before we sign off, I hope he writes back again. So anyway, Tanika, girl, I thank you. I hate that obviously you had to experience that. But I understand listening to you today and being on the other side. Here we go. He wrote back. Thank you. He said, yes, some who have experienced. So just for a second, let me appreciate these women. Mm-hmm. I hope they are all still here today in the name of Jesus. I hope they are all still here today. So it looks like Tabitha Moore or Tabitha Moore, Dorothy McGill King, Lenoris King, Amelia Bridges, Annie Morgan. Oh, I appreciate you. You know what? You just gave me an idea for some to shout out some names of some people who have even the ones who did not make it, who could not sit here with us today. Right? Some of them did not make it, but to just love on people who have been through it and shout out on those. Because yes, indeed. Let's see what else we got here. I'm tagging family. Oh, you're tagging family and friends to the show. All right, that's what's up. Now, see that right there. That's how you get the message out. Okay. So at the end of the day, Tanika, I'm gonna let you go because I kept you for extra time. Although I kind of knew I would anyway, because I don't get tired with you that often.
That's right.
You are a phenomenal woman.
Thank you.
And like I said, I hate that you had to go through that. But sitting here with you today and having presented with you before and having gone through that class with you, I do know that certain things, and I don't like to say this because sometimes I think people think it's a cop-out, but I do know certain things happen for a reason. And let me say why. Let me just say why in this instance. Because God knew what we would do with this.
That's right.
He knew what we would do with our experiences. He knew it. It's in us. And so I thank God for that little seed that's in you that's been growing and has turned into an outpouring of information, sharing your truth, and without fear, without shame, without guilt, because we give people a glimpse of what it looks like on the other side.
The other side.
Because there is an other side. So anyway, I'm grateful for your life. I'm grateful for your heart, your spirit, that beautiful face of yours, those eyes, that sunshine is there. I see it. I feel it. I'm thankful for you.
I'm thankful for you as well.
All right, everybody. What else we got? Blessings, sisters. Hey, Sophie, she made it this time. Again, I appreciate you. So, all right, we're going to let you guys go. It is the end of the show, Tanika. I don't think that there's anything else you want to say. If it is, this is your floor. You say it. If not, we're good.
We're good.
Awesome. Listen, I will make sure I get this. It's going to actually obviously load up right away. If you are watching, please do share it. As soon as we jump off this thing, start hitting that share button, because I know I am. I'm going to hit that share button. I appreciate you all for tuning in and even for staying on longer than you were supposed to or expected to. God bless you all. We will be, now wait, I won't be here next Sunday because it is July 4th weekend, so we won't have an episode. But I got another guest on Sunday, July 11th that I can't wait for y'all to meet. Cannot wait. So I'm excited. I'll get that announcement out shortly, but enjoy the holiday break. Enjoy the rest of your week. You are all amazing. Thank you for your support. Tanika, I will talk to you soon. Beautiful.
Hey.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.